spoke up here. I came a month or two ago. It might have been a couple months ago, but I'm excited. Man, I just want to. As I look out at the crowd, you guys are the ones that are committed, the willing ones, the ones that are here, still here, end of summer, or I'm sorry, beginning. Summer's just starting, and we're missing a lot of people. So I just want to commend you guys for being here, and I'm just excited for what God's going to share with us today. We're talking about today kind of division. Like I said, this is kind of the beginning of summer. This is really kind of our last normal subway of the year. Really, next week we're going to be gone in desperation. So there's a road rally. We're going to have a little bit of testimony night, and then we got the summer starting, all kinds of crazy different things. And so, as I was beginning to think about what I want to talk about, I just really felt like God was wanting me just to kind of reiterate the vision for the fall, where we're going, and being this kind of our last opportunity to really let you guys know what the plan is. And so, how many people were here last week? Raise it high. You have to use like elbows. Okay. So maybe like half, maybe so. So the beginning for you half is be a little bit of a repeat, but for the rest of you guys, I want to kind of listen up. So last week, John laid out this vision. We had some parents here, and we wanted to kind of get everyone on the same page for where we're going in the fall. And there's a little bit of change coming up. How many people have heard John or any adult say the phrase 10,000 strong? Some of you guys have heard that. Some of you haven't. And I've only heard it maybe the last week or two, and just this vision that John's had, and this idea of 10,000 songs. So I want to kind of define it for you guys, for those of you who aren't familiar. So we have this Friday night ministry, which we haven't ran for the past month. It's our big outreach. It's our community event, and we've probably had, what did we have this year go through? Do you know? Students.
How many?
Yeah.
How many different students?
Different students.
Over 1,000.
So over 1,000 different students had come through, and so. Yeah, what does it look like? That's kind of what we're doing. We're going to define what it looks like. And so we've had a little over 1,000 students come, and we got this idea for what if we had 10,000 students walk through our doors and we could just preach the gospel. This doesn't mean 10,000 students would receive Christ and we'd have a youth ministry of 10,000. But what if throughout the course of Friday nights next year, what if 10,000 people came through and heard the gospel? Okay. And again, it doesn't mean that they're a full-fledged Christian, but and John said this, 10,000 strong doesn't mean, they've accepted Christ, because we can't do that for them. It's ultimately going to be up to them. On a Friday night, we've had hundreds of people even come to the cross, nail it in, but that doesn't ultimately, make them a Christian. So that choice is going to come through them. All we can do is kind of preach our guts out. And so that's kind of the vision of where we're going. And so, how does that affect you guys? Why am I, preaching about this again? I just want to make sure you guys know, this doesn't mean, John and myself and the adults are going to try to reach 10,000 students. It means you guys are. You guys sitting in the seats. This is the vision of the ministry, and you guys run this ministry. John's a leader, but it's not his ministry. It's your guys' ministry. When you walk in this door, this is your ministry, and I want you guys to kind of understand that. Can I get, where's Julie at? Yeah, all right. Didn't take long. I got to drink a lot of water when I speak. I don't know. I should go to the doctor and see if there's some kind of surgery I can get. I don't know. Maybe not. It sounds stupid. If they had it, I'd do it. Okay. What's that? So, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. When Friday night started, and the vision really came about, we started going after it. It was predominantly student run. I think back, where's Jessica's here? And she was kind of part of that class that started that. And as I begin to look back, when we would do a Friday night, I don't even know if John knew what was going on like a halftime. As the students completely led every single one. They would come up with a game, they would come up with the message, and the students would do it all. And over the course of 7 years or so, it's kind of evolved, and it got to the point where pretty much the adults do everything. And we've had pulse meetings, and we've had student leadership, and I really feel like the leadership that we had gave some of you students like a little bit of involvement, but it wasn't enough to really need 100% of you. You could just show up every once in a while, shake a few hands, and you fulfilled your leadership commitment. And so, what it was when it started isn't what it is now. And I want to kind of share a story of kind of what it was like now. This year, I was sitting, and this was the last Friday nights we had, and John was speaking, and we were just excited. We were seeing a lot of fruit this Friday night as far as response from people on our halftime messages. And I remember John was speaking, and man, I was just excited. I'm like, these community kids, these people who don't know God, these people that are lost, they're going to hear the gospel. And I remember looking, and I saw one of our students, and when I say our students, I mean like their parents have grown up in our church, they've come to church every day of their life, forever, and their family comes to church, and so that's what I mean by like our students. And the person was sitting kind of in the middle, and they were just completely goofing off. And they were making jokes, and they were distracting people. And I remember getting so angry. Like, can I be honest with you? For me, I want to be honest. Like, I wanted to go and punch him. And so that's what I wanted to do. And your youth pastor wants to punch his students. That's real good, right? And I remember just being so angry because I was like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? Like, you are a church kid. You should be eyes forward. You should be praying for the people next to you, and you don't even care. Like, it's a joke to you. Like, you're more lost than the community kids. And I was staring at him like, please just be a little bit more disrespectful, because I want an excuse to just grab you by the ear, rip it off, and throw you out. Because I was so mad. And I don't know about you guys, how many people know like angry people and they're punchers? Like, they just punch stuff when they get angry. You guys know anyone like that? Okay, well, I never understood that. Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Like, go punch a wall. Oh, good job. That makes you feel better, right? And I'm not that, it takes a lot to get me angry. I get upset at different things. It's okay to be upset, but anger is something totally different. And I can remember there was only one other time that I was that angry. I used to be a soccer coach. When I say used to be, I did it for a year. And I just got busy with other stuff. But I loved coaching, and I had a player who just, I was coaching soccer, and took a free kick and got stolen, and he just kind of like watched the person go down and score. And I got so angry, and I was like, we didn't even have any subs. Like, we were down to like 11 guys, a couple guys were injured, and I was like, I was so mad. And I told him, I'd like, sit down. You are not even really have 10, coach. Sit. I said, I am so mad at you. I want to hit you right now. That's the only other time I was that angry. And so I was going to be real with you guys. That's just how I felt. And so why do I say all that? I say all that to say I was so angry with this person, I wanted to hit him. That's what I felt like. Ugh. All right? But it wasn't until after I kind of thought, and I want to apologize to you guys. I don't think we've done the best job of giving you an opportunity to have ownership of what's going on. I don't think I gave that student an opportunity to even be involved. On a typical Friday night, we'll only have a small percentage of our core youth ministry even show up, let alone being involved. Okay? And so, man, I just want to apologize that we've done a poor job of letting you own this ministry. I can sit back and say I want to punch everyone who doesn't own the ministry, but if I didn't give everyone an opportunity to do that, well, then that's on me. That's on us as leadership. And so, I told you a story about the guy, and he's not here, luckily, because you might know who he is, because I was staring at him. My eyes were just on this guy. And so, like I said, I kind of realized it was our fault. And, we're making some big changes well, we've kind of already made them, but they won't really take much effect to the fall. We got this frontline thing going on, and we've done a lot of different leadership things, but for the first time, I'm super excited about where we're going with Frontline. How many people know what Frontline is, first of all? Okay. So most of you, we've talked about it quite a bit. We've had some vision casting for it. But again, this is kind of our last regular Wednesday, and so I just want to take this opportunity to kind of recast that vision. You know, Frontline is exactly what I talked about. It's for students that want to take ownership of the ministry. And there's going to be opportunities on Frontline where you're just going to be pushed, you're going to be stretched. I mean, you're not going to be able to be a faker and come to youth ministry and be on Frontline. I mean, you're going to be held accountable, and there's some pretty big stipulations that, that'll be on you on this team, right? And so, as we look at 10,000 strong and where we're going in the fall, it's kind of crazy. We were like, yeah, 10,000 strong. And to be honest, for the first time, like to reach like 1,000 students on a Friday, I don't even think that'll be that hard. To be quite honest with you, I think that'd be pretty easy if we wanted to do it, and I think we will. But the 10,000 thing, me and Aaron started doing some math on it. So like, all right, so we got this vision, 10,000. If we can get 1,000 in a week, well, then we should be able to get 10,000. We started doing the math. There's like 29 or 30 Friday nights next year that are on the calendar. And so that means we're going to need a total of 333 new people every single Friday night. Well, that's not very easy to do, but right now we run about 400 students on a Friday night, or we have been, and we get about 50 to 100 brand new people every single week. And so if we were consistently running 1,000, it's not that much of a stretch to get 300 new people every week. And so I suppose it's plausible if you watch Mythbusters. It's in the plausible realm of things, but it's definitely going to be a God thing to get this done. So we've thrown out some numbers before, but there are approximately 50,000 teenagers, your peers, in our area within a 5 square circumference of this general area. And so 10,000 is going to be how many percent? 20%. That's huge. To say that 20% of all the teenagers in our area will have at least at some point heard the gospel. That's a huge undertaking. I'm really excited about that. And so we're going to kind of move on, and I'm going to talk about, that's the vision. That's what it looks like. That's what we're going to go for. But what's it going to cost us? What's it going to take to get it done? And so tonight, really, it's not so much a message as it is like a pep talk. All right, so I'm going to kind of play Mother Goose for a second and read you guys a story. Is that cool? All right, so if you guys bear with me, I want to start talking about, that's what it looks like. I want to start talking about what it's going to cost. I'm going to get my water ready because this is about 4.5 pages of a story that I want to read to you. Okay, sound good? You guys with me? Yeah. 3. All right. So, this book called The Dream Giver. Has anyone ever read it? John McDonald. Woo! All right. I didn't expect anyone to. I was just curious. The only reason I read it is because he made me. So, back when I was an intern. So, it's a pretty cool book. It's one of my favorite books because it's a storybook and it's really easy to follow along with. There's like 3 and 4 page chapters, and I can do that. I'm not much of a I started off not being so much of a reader, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a premise of this book. It's called The Dream Giver. Now, the Dream Giver is God, and I found my page and I'll just share it. Sweet. Okay, so the book, the characters are named things like Ordinary, and he lives in a place called Familiar. And he's going to the borderland where lies he's got his comfort zone. And so the person's name is Ordinary. That's the main character. God is the dream giver. And as I read the book, that's kind of the setup of it. Okay, does that make sense to you guys? The names of the characters are different things like that. So I'm going to read a few pages, and we're going to kind of talk about what it costs, all right? Okay, here we go. It's called Ordinary Leaves His Comfort Zone. The next morning, Ordinary woke up at the usual time, but instead of reporting to his usual job, he packed his suitcase with the usual stuff. Then he had his journal and a bottle of permanent ink. Just before he closed the latch, he carefully placed his long white feather inside. Soon, Ordinary was walking away from the comfortable center of Familiar, where almost every nobody lived. He was heading toward the border where almost no nobodies ever went. Ordinary had never dared to walk this way before. But like every nobody, he knew that the farther you walked from the center of Familiar, the less familiar things became. He also knew that most nobodies who tried to leave the comfort zone of Familiar became so uncomfortable, they turned around and went home. Some were glad to be back. They sat in their recliner for days, waiting for nothing to happen, and sighing with relief. But Ordinary told himself he was different from most nobodies. He would pursue his dream no matter what. Brimming with anticipation, Ordinary whistled his new tune while he walked, and he dreamed about the great things he would accomplish. Life had never seemed so promising. Ordinary hadn't gone far, however, when he no longer felt like whistling. He couldn't say why, but he just wasn't in the mood anymore. Then as he walked further, he began to feel edgy. The scenery looked different, the leaves on the trees looked leafy in a different way. Now when Ordinary thought about his dream, it looked different too. For the first time, he saw how pursuing it could cause him a lot of discomfort. He would have to do unfamiliar things in unfamiliar places, and he wouldn't have his box to watch. Then he had an even more disturbing thought. To do what he loved most, he would have to do what he most dreaded. Ordinary's mood quickly went from edgy to anxious. His steps began to slow. He began to have big doubts about his big dream. What had he been thinking? He didn't have enough talent or skill to succeed at his dream. He was clearly unable to accomplish great things. What if he failed right in front of other nobodies? Worse, even if he could do the dream, he was clearly unworthy. Any nobody could see that he didn't deserve to live his dream. He was just ordinary, after all. Maybe the dream giver had meant to give the dream to some other nobody more noble than him. By now, each step was harder to take than the last. His anxiety grew into fear. Then up ahead, he saw a sign. It read, "Leaving the comfort zone of Familiar, entering Borderland." Now Ordinary felt sheer terror. Sweat poured off his forehead. He could hardly breathe. He could hardly think. Then, just as he came to the sign, Ordinary hit an invisible wall of fear. He stopped. Unable to take one more step, he dropped his suitcase and sat on it. Should he turn around, he wondered, or should he try to find a way to go on? Time passed. Then he heard these words, "Why are you stopping?" Ordinary recognized the dream giver. "I think I want to go back home," he said weakly. "I'm not the right nobody to go after such a big dream." "Yes, you are," said the dream giver. "I made you to do this." "But I don't think I can do this," he said. "Yes, you can. And I will be with you. I will help you." Ordinary stayed where he was. He watched an unfamiliar bug crawl across the toe of his shoe. Strange birds flew by overhead. After a while, he stood and looked longingly toward the unknown. Somewhere out there was his big dream. But getting from here to there seemed way too hard. Then he looked longingly back toward Familiar. He finally remembered all his comforts. His usual job, his best friend, his recliner, his box. There was something wonderful about nothing happening. Ordinary picked up his suitcase and decided to take one step in that direction, just to see what it felt like. It felt better. Right away his breathing came easier, so he took another step, just to see what that step would feel like. It felt even better. He went on. With every step back toward the middle of Familiar, Ordinary grew more comfortable. But he quickly noticed he was also growing sad again. And he knew why. With each step he took, he was leaving behind his big dream. Then he heard the dream giver again. "Why are you going back?" he asked. Ordinary stopped. "Because I'm afraid. Leaving Familiar feels too scary and too risky," he said. "Yes, it does," said the dream giver. "But if I was supposed to do this big dream," he exclaimed, "then I'm sure I wouldn't feel so afraid." Excuse me. "Yes, you would," said the dream giver. "Every nobody does." Ordinary hung his head. He thought for a moment. "But wait, you could take away the fear. Please, take the fear away," he begged. "If you don't, I can't go on." "Yes, you can," the dream giver said. "Take courage, Ordinary." And then he was gone. Ordinary saw his choice clearly now. He could either keep his comfort or his dream. But how do you take courage when you don't have any? Ordinary decided if his fear wasn't going to leave, he would have to go forward in spite of it. Still trembling, he picked up a suitcase, turned his back on Familiar, and walked to the sign. And even though his fear kept growing, Ordinary shut his eyes and took a big step forward, right through the invisible wall of fear. And there he made a surprising discovery. On the other side of that single step, the exact one Ordinary didn't think he could take, he found that he had broken through his comfort zone. Now the wall of fear was behind him. He was free and his dream was ahead. He began to whistle again as he walked on, his big dream beating brightly in his chest. Ordinary took out his journal and his long white feather and wrote down the truth about his comfort zone. He learned these things over that period of time. He wrote, "It was hard to leave my comfort zone. Would have been even harder to leave behind my dream. I'm glad I didn't. I still don't feel worthy or able to do my dream, but the dream giver has promised to help me. Now I know a secret. I can take courage even when I feel afraid. My big dream was on the other side of that invisible wall of fear. I just stepped through it. I didn't think I could, but I did." That was a lunch of weed without water. So, we got this guy, Ordinary, who lived in Familiar, who had a big dream, huge dream. Kind of like the dreams God's been giving this ministry. And Ordinary was super excited to get started, but as he kept going, he got less and less comfortable. And there's that one point in the story where he doesn't want to go. He just kind of sits there, and he begins to look, what if I went back? And then as soon as he takes a step back, he's like, ooh, that's so much easier. I like being ordinary. Ordinary feels good. It feels comfortable. I'm not stretched at all. And I'm wondering tonight, how many people know what Element Student Ministry is, what our tagline is? Not the vision statement, not the mission statement, but the tagline. Does anyone know? We got a couple of you guys have been around for a while. Some people aren't sure. Chelsea, what is it? Ordinary students living extraordinary lives. Some of you were like, oh, that's what it was. You know, I think, is it on a wall somewhere? It's on the shirts? All right, so it's on the shirts. So it's something we say all the time. Ordinary students living extraordinary lives. And, you know, I began to wonder, like, how many people graduate and they ever get to that place? And they actually make it to extraordinary. How many people don't settle? And I'd have to imagine that the majority of people do settle. As much as we want to say living extraordinary lives, I would bet that the majority of students who walk through this ministry never make it to extraordinary. And as I begin to think about, you know, kind of a scripture reference and a story that I can tie in and just kind of make it fit to what we're talking about, I was kind of reminded that it's actually quite common for people to settle for ordinary. I guess that's why it's called ordinary, right? Because it's common, it's regular. And I began to start in the New Testament because that's where I read most of the time, and didn't find anything there, and it kind of hit me, duh. You know, this is exactly what the Israelites did. This is their story. See, Jesus came to these people and he said, I have the biggest dream for you. I have these plans for you. I want to make you a great nation. All you got to do is obey me. All you got to do is follow me. Seems easy enough. And at first they were pretty excited. At one point they were slaves in Egypt, and that wasn't working out too good, and they wanted freedom. They wanted something bigger. And so they took their first step, and they left Familiar. And it was a few steps out of the Israelites' journey from Familiar where they had already stopped. They hit this big Red Sea, and they said, God, we want to go back. We want to go back to Familiar. It's more comfortable there. It's crazy. You read in Exodus 14, this is what they say. They say, what have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? Let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been far better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. people are so used to familiar, and the Israelites were so used to familiar, they preferred slavery over working hard and going and risking and being uncomfortable for what God wanted to do. I can see God's frustration. He was probably there and be like, I just wanted to punch him in the face. I mean, maybe that's probably not true, but that's kind of how I feel. I'm sure God's a little bit more patient than that. But man, he had to have been so frustrated. Didn't you just see what I did? Didn't you just see the signs and wonders that I performed? You don't think I'm going to take care of you? Yet the Israelites said, you know what? I would rather stay in familiar, in slavery, than risk and be uncomfortable and be, go after my dream and fulfill what the dream giver wanted for us. It happens again. They finally get past that step and they're on their journey a little bit further, and they're right at the doorstep of their dream now. And they've been going for quite a while, and they see their dream, and God has this place for them. Beautiful place. Promised land. And so all you got to do is go take it. And they send people to go look at it. Some of you guys know the story. They send the spies to go scout out this land. They come back and they say, that's a little bit too risky. That's a little bit too uncomfortable for me. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. Let's just stay here. Let's not go for the dream. Even though everything we've gone through, even though everything we've wandered around, we've been shaped by God during this time, but let's not go. Let's settle for ordinary. Let's be disobedient to God, and let's settle for familiar. Settle for comfort. And I kind of want to fast forward a little bit, because I think this is the turning point where we're at. We're at this point in this ministry where I don't want to say that we've been traveling around in the desert like the Israelites have, but I think we've been on this journey. It's been shaping us. And I don't want to say that all the students that have gone before you have failed at achieving God's dream, because there's certainly been many victories, and I think our culture has been shaped with a prayer culture and just a culture of just a holiness and the way we live our lives, and the media that we watch, and the things we do, and the standards that we keep have been shaped through the students that have gone before us. But I think we're at this turning point where we're looking at a promised land, so to speak. We're looking at, and I don't want to say a big youth ministry is a promised land, but I want to say God's dream is the promised land. God's vision is the promised land. What God wants for us is the promised land. Would you guys agree with me? And we're at this point where we're ready to say, okay, are we going to back down, or are we going to go for it? And I think we've already made a decision. We're going for it. And I guess what I'm saying to you today, are you in? All right? And I felt like kind of the scripture God was giving me that I just wanted to share with you guys came in Joshua. See, Moses led the Israelites to that whole point. He never got to go. But see, Joshua represented this whole new generation. Okay? He represents this whole new generation that was about to take hold and lay hold of and be obedient to what God wanted them to do. And I specifically want the young people to listen to this, because you guys are the future leaders in this ministry. No offense to the seniors and sophomores and juniors, but I think by now, if you've been in this ministry long enough, you've already made your decision. You've already said, well, I'm going to go in all in, and I don't care about being comfortable. Or by now, you are so used to being comfortable that you have made yourself like the biggest beanbag chair ever, and you're just consumed by it. You couldn't leave if you wanted to. Okay? And so, this is to the young people. I mean, it's to everybody, but specifically the young people. This is Joshua. This is what God says to Joshua right before they're about to take the promised land. Right before they're about to lay hold of God's dream. He goes to him and he says, Joshua, be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left,
that you may be successful wherever you go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Be strong and courageous. So you go back to that story. Ordinary was sitting there. And he says, well, I don't have courage. I'm really afraid. I don't want to move. I'm not going anywhere. And just like the dream giver in the story said, just take courage. Take it. I'm not just going to... Remember, the person in the story prayed, or he asked the dream giver for the easy button. He said, dream giver, just change me up. Just fix me. Make you who you want me to be. And then I won't be afraid anymore. I'll just go do it. And that's not what the dream giver said. He said, no, you take up courage and you go do it. Okay? And but I just think that I feel like that's what God's telling us to do in the months to come, in the season that we're headed in. And so, what's there to be afraid about as we go into this dream? What is there to be really scared about? As you're on front line, and if you join that, and you're ready to be a part of this, what's there to be scared about? There's quite a bit to be scared about. The frontline team is going to be asked to do some pretty radical things as far as sharing their faith. Talking about writing out your testimony and stamping it on every locker in your school. Talking about videotaping your testimony and then tagging every one of your friends on Facebook. I'm actually really excited. I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to videotape my testimony and tag my family members. And for them to be like, whoa, that's kind of weird. And for me just to, sometimes it's hard for us to, just go up to your friend and like, hey, let me just tell you my testimony. I wish I was like that, but we don't always do that. And so, I guess that's not where I'm going, but the point is, you'll be stretched, right? Financially, I think of, I think this more falls on leadership than you guys, but there's going to be a lot of steps we have to take. And, you guys are going to be asked, we're going to have so many different opportunities as we go into this dream. And different opportunities for you guys. And some of the things are going to cost money. We're going to be asking you guys to help raise money for different things. We're going to talk about some of the cool things we're going to do to advertise, to get our name out in the community. We're talking about things like running an ad at MJR at the movies. And so I think they said like 160,000 people a week would see our youth ministry and just know that we're here. And so we're going to do things that begin to stretch us. And the faker isn't going to be able to live in Element Student Ministries. The ordinary person isn't going to be very comfortable in here. You're not going to have an opportunity to be comfortable. And I think that's kind of what I'm already seeing is we kind of begin to get a little bit smaller here. I feel like a lot of the people that are used to comfort, they're gone. They went back to familiar, and they're sitting in their BMEG chair watching their box. The box of the TV, that's what the guy calls it, right? And so, how else is it going to change? To be all in is going to take a commitment, To be able to show up to the prayer meetings and to sow in tears. This is what we talked about a couple weeks ago. That's going to take a commitment. That's going to take just a breakthrough for you to say, I'm done with the things of this world. What John talked about in his mini message before prayer, about just seeing people and seeing how we're, half-heartedly in this. It's not going to work out. And so, as we come to this point where I feel like we're, Joshua's generation, and we're going to lay hold with God's dream. I got a video I want to play, and it's from the movie To Save a Life. And so a lot of you guys have seen it, but it just talks about the main character, and he's kind of wrestling with this idea of do I want to do this? Do I want to give everything to God? Do I want to commit? Do I want to not be ordinary anymore? Am I going to settle? And so that's the idea. I guess if I wanted to tell you all about it, I wouldn't show the video, so I'll just show the video.
Jake? How long you been out here?
The whole time?
Why didn't you come inside?
I don't know. Just not sure.
About what?
I believe that you believe, but why are there so many fakers in there?
I know there's fakers in the group, Jake, but so does God. I don't know, I guess there's always going to be people who are afraid and willing to settle. But, you know, that's not what it's about. It's about you. What are you going to do?
I say that I don't want to settle. Is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I was asking a lot of the same questions you are. You know, but at some point you gotta ask yourself, what do you want your life to be about? I spent a lot of years trying to figure this out, acting like everything was cool. At a certain point, I just had to answer that question in my heart. Is there something more?
I'm happy enough.
Well, it wasn't enough for me, Jake. If you're really willing to look, and I don't mean just try it out, then I'm telling you, Jake, you're gonna find that he's more than worth it.
I'm not just gonna become some Christian.
Good. I wouldn't want you to.
So, okay, at the clip, a couple things stood out that I want to comment on. He says, you know, there's always going to be people who are afraid and willing to settle. And my prayer is that, as you guys kind of listen today, that something stirred in your heart that, you know, if you haven't made that decision to be all in and to participate in what God wants, man, don't settle. You know, and the other thing he says is, he asked the youth pastor, he says, is it worth it? And he says, yeah, it's worth it. But then he responds, he's like, you know what, I'm happy enough. I'm happy enough. And you can sit back and say, you know, I'm happy enough. The Israelites did. Heck, happy enough for them was slavery. You know, it takes a lot to push past that. To push past ordinary. And despite whether what we're comfortable with, despite whether what makes us happy enough, you know, what our youth group looks like, it's not enough for God. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever fully grasp the dream that God has for this ministry. Does that make sense? I don't know if we'll ever get there and finish. Because there's always going to be lost teenagers. There's always going to be one more person to go. You know, more people to share the gospel with. So I don't know that we'll ever get there, but I guess what I'm asking tonight is, are you guys willing as a ministry? And I love that tonight's we're a little bit smaller. I love that this is the willing ones. This is the core students. Are we going to be willing in the months to come to make it to the prayer meetings, to give sacrificially, to live a life of holiness that God's called us to live, to not go to the crappy movie and go see Hangover 2. Sorry if you saw it. I feel guilty. You know, are we willing to live that life? Are we willing to step out and be extraordinary? Man, because that's what God's called us to be. And so I hope you guys, you know, just leave this place just inspired a little bit, and it just weighs on your heart. And I hope that you're just excited. I mean, I can't wait for the fall. And I know we don't have to wait till the fall to start doing ministry, but that's really when things are going to kick off and school's going to start. I mean, I've already started writing messages for Friday night because I can't wait. Harry almost gets some gospel for Friday night. And I got this little document on my computer. Every time something Friday night comes out, I just can't wait, and I start writing it down. And I'm just excited for what
what God's going to do. Whether or not God's going to show up and meet us and this thing's going to happen, that's not even in question. The question lies with us. You know, somebody, God, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to reach our community? Of course He does. He absolutely does. And so I just kind of want to leave you guys with these thoughts. I hope that inspired you a little bit. It wasn't so much a message as it was like a pep talk. And so I hope you guys are pumped up. It was a little bit longer than I was going to speak, but I always do that, so sorry. I kind of want to close with this. You know, if you haven't joined Frontline, and you maybe haven't said, I'm committed to join this team, then I just want to give you guys another opportunity to do that. See me, John, you know, Holly, and we'll get you the application. We'll talk to you about it. And so I just want to just, I guess, re-recruit for that, and just, you know, tell you guys that we want you to give everything you have, because we're going to. And it's going to be an exciting fall. With that, though, we're going to close just a little bit of prayer time, and we're going to pray for all of the students that are going to Colorado. So, because we leave in less than a week, 6 days. So, if you're going to Colorado, how many people are going to Colorado? Could you guys kind of come up and gather in the middle? And we're going to pray over you, and we'll be dismissed. Sound good? Don't be shy. We'll get you guys in the middle. If you guys could just stand up, you guys stretch out a hand. You guys group up. Did I do this too awkwardly? I may have done this too awkwardly. Let's just get the awkward out. What's that?